It's time for another edition of Dome and Domer.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Dome and Domer, the oldest ND sports podcast on the planet. I'm your host, Mike Sullivan from the class of 1990, and joining me as always, Mike Brammer, my Dillon Hall roommate, and from the class of 1991, Mike Coffey. Hey guys, how you doing? Good to be with you today.
Good to be with you
as always.
too.
Today we're going to spend about 20 minutes. We'll review some of Coach Freeman's comments in his weekly press conference. We'll talk about where the Irish stand in the college football playoff discussion. But let's begin today looking at some updates on ND statistics through 5 games. You know, one of my favorite Notre Dame beat writers, Eric Hansen. I think he's absolutely the best. Priester's really good as well. Hansen has for years talked about the 5 key stats that really are indicative of a championship caliber team. And so I thought it would be interesting to go through some of that today and look how the Irish, are trending after 5 games in these 5 key statistical areas. So the first of which is pass efficiency offense. Notre Dame is 7th in the country. So really very, very much looking like an elite team, championship caliber team when it comes to efficient pass offense. That's even up from last week. You know, we all said like, oh, CJ Carr didn't have his best game. I'm telling you what, if 15 to 22, 2 touchdowns, no picks is Carr's floor, we're going to be really good for the foreseeable future. CJ Carr is 9th nationally in pass efficiency. And the offense continues to be very explosive, 6th in the country in explosive plays. But again, those 5 key areas, pass efficiency offense, we're 7th in the country. Another area where Notre Dame looks elite, that's turnover margin. We're 16th in the country, aided by a 4-0 turnover margin against Boise State. That's up from 51st the previous weeks. So those 2 areas, we look like a playoff team. Rush offense and rush defense are 2 categories where we're above average, but not elite. Rush offense, Notre Dame is 48th in the country, up from 59th the week before. Rush defense, 43rd in the country, and that's also up. And so, whereas for much of the season, the defense looked like a real liability, starting to trend more towards certainly above average in some key areas. And pass efficiency defense, for example, 53rd, sacks, 52nd, starting to become a strength. Total defense is below average still, and we got a ways to go there. Only 78th in the country. Here's the good news. We're up from 98th the week before, right? So we see trending in the right direction in those 5 statistical areas. Bram, I'll throw it over to you for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's consistent with kind of what the eye test has shown us. I think what's starting to form with this season is that, you know what, the first 2 games were kind of a feel out stage, unfortunately for us. It just so happened that they were 2 really tough games. And CJ Carr being, for the most part, a freshman quarterback, taking his first snap in a meaningful minute, that's probably a good sign that we're starting to see this separation of the improvement both offensively and defensively. And I think the stats that you just iterated prove that to be the case. So I think hopefully this continues for the Irish and they get better and better as we move ahead here.
Coffee, what's your take on all this?
Well, Brent talked about the offense. I'll be the one to talk about the defense. I mean, certainly has been an improvement. I mean, that's going to happen when you play your first 2 games against now, I think, top 5 teams, and the rest of your games against teams that are not so much top 5. I think the defense eye test is improving. I mean, I know there's a lot of times when stats will say one thing and you say, is this really what I'm watching? I think the defense on first and second down is a lot better. I know watching Boise State trying to run the ball, I think the front 7 played much better. I think the communication is better. You're not seeing guys pointing at each other and saying, where do I go? What do I do? if there was simplification made, which I believe there was, I think it's been to Notre Dame's benefit in that they are doing the things well that they have to do well. And once they get their feet under them in that respect, they want to start throwing in a wrinkle or two. I mean, that's fine. But I think what we're seeing on the field is matching these statistical improvements, though, as you point out, there's still quite a few bridges to cross on that score.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all suffer from the rush to judgment, right? Week 1, fire Chris Ash. Week 2, whatever.
Well, I still want to fire him. Don't get me wrong. I'm still not a Chris Ash fan.
You do you, Coffee, whatever. So it's a 12-game season, and the statistical characteristics of championship teams are built over the entire year. So let's let the whole thing play out. And, if you played Miami and A&M caliber teams every week, you wouldn't look very good. Nobody would look very good statistically. But the season is based on middling teams and crap teams and elite teams. And that's the whole picture that we should look at. I think it's good to look how we're trending, and those things are obviously indicative of areas where you got to work on or get better. What I'm most encouraged about is Coach Freeman has an approach to attack the things that we need to work on and get better. And so now that's a segue into the press conference, right? One of the reasons I love listening to Coach Freeman, reading the quotes verbatim or watching it live, is it's just such a great insight into his leadership style, the culture that he's trying to build, how he's trying to run this program. And it just comes across in his comments. We talked about this before. He sticks to the message always. And it's about team and, reaching our full potential and the process. Hey, there's outcomes and results that we may like or not like, but they're focused on the process. Bram, you and I were talking about this a little earlier. You had some interesting thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just think that going back to your comments last week about special teams, he referenced that today in the press conference, and I think it was exactly what we thought, which is that the level of competition is so great on the team because of the depth that to be on special teams is a privilege. I mean, you got to fight for that. There are guys making big plays on special teams, and that's a great way for these younger players to showcase their talents in front of the coaching staff as well as in front of 79,000 fans. That's an opportunity for me. And so when there's that kind of competition on special teams, that's just going to resonate with the entire program. I mean, that's the level of detail and the level of excellence that he's looking for. And I thought that was a perfect example of where Marcus Freeman's at with the culture of this football team right now.
Yeah, one of the things he mentioned is, like, I don't want anybody in this program to be satisfied with their role, where they're at. Again, insight into the culture of competition, the culture of excellence, getting better, reaching full potential. No matter who it is, I don't want them to be satisfied with the role that they have. Want them to push, want them to compete. Now on Saturday, you embrace the role that you have, and you play to the best of your ability and totally embrace the team glory. But even, as I'm listening to him say this, I'm thinking about, CJ Carr. If I'm CJ Carr, I don't want to be content. CJ Carr, I'm sure, wants to throw it 50 times a game, right? But embracing the role that he has on Saturday, even if Monday through Friday, I want more, right? And so, that type of competition and attitude throughout the depth chart is going to be a great thing for us. Now, here's one area that he talked about where they're going to kind of squelch the competition a little bit, and that's at place kicker. So Noah Burnett, our place kicker, is still listed as questionable. We obviously saw his absence on Saturday play an impact, right? We have an impact in decisions maybe on fourth down. So Coach talked about maybe naming a kicker early in the week if Burnett can't go and not have them compete so much. So I thought that was an interesting spin on the whole competition thing. Greathouse listed questionable again. Curious what you guys thought of the absence of Greathouse in the offense and what impact that had. Will Pauling and stepped up, But overall, are we missing Greathouse, or is Pauling more than serviceable? Coffee, what do you think?
I think, well, as the stats showed, I mean, this definitely, I don't know if it was Will Pauling's coming out party, but definitely he showed that he can get open, he can catch the ball when it's thrown to him and stuff like that. But the two things that I think about here is with all the new crazy rules and eligibility and stuff like that, a lot of fans now have to look at like week 5 and week 6 about players who suddenly disappear off the depth chart, who have decided that they want to maintain their eligibility because they're going to be going somewhere else. And I think that also factors into what you guys were talking about with Coach Freeman talking about roles. As inexperienced a coach as Marcus Freeman is, he is ahead of the curve on his ability to be what the kind of coach I prefer, which is where you praise in public, criticize in private. I don't think you're going to see Marcus Freeman coming out into press conferences and saying, well, this guy has to execute, or we have to do that. But I do think he can hit the sweet spot sometimes in talking about the roles. And not only does it maybe talk to players like CJ Carr who are trying to push too hard or grow too fast, maybe players who aren't necessarily satisfied with where they're at, and instead of grumbling in private and stuff like that, Freeman is giving everyone a consistent message. Everybody has a role on this team, and everyone it has the possibility of contributing to its success. And you can either like pull your rope and contribute to the effort, or I don't know what happens. I just thought it was rather strange to see him go from playing to hurt in this key week 5, week 6.
Yeah, but that's the challenge in college football today is every coach faces this challenge, and that is, how do you sell a kid that you're better off to stay here in this program, in this culture, in the way that we operate things, because your opportunities down the line are still going to be there and could arguably be better than you leaving to go somewhere else to be a star in, maybe it's a lower Power 5, or maybe it's, wherever they end up wanting to go that they think they're going to be better off. I think that is what Marcus Freeman has done a really good job about, because when you look at the number of transfers out of Notre Dame, it's mostly because of they've graduated, or it just makes total sense. Like in the case of Pat Coogan, I think Freeman is really navigating this really, really well. And I think it's going to continue just because of the way he handles that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a function of culture. Guys do buy in. We're going to have guys depart because of depth chart issues in midseason. That is the nature of college football right now. Hey, Jaden Mickey left last year. We could have used him, right?
Yeah.
But he wanted something else. And hey, guys, everybody has the right to pursue their own version of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And so, hey, whatever. And if that is, Coffee, I don't know if you're insinuating something about Greathouse or not.
Nope.
Yeah.
I know nothing. I claim nothing. I'm just pointing out in general, college football fans now have a whole new time of the calendar. Like, it's not just signing day. It's not just now it's week 4. What happens? And I'm not saying anything specific to Greathouse. I know absolutely nothing about what he may be thinking or what he wants to do, but it just adds another level of angst for fans when all of a sudden you get into week 5 and week 6 and players are making decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, a couple other depth chart updates. Cooper Flanagan listed as questionable, but getting closer. I think that would be terrific for the continued development of the offense, right? Have another weapon like that. We certainly know how to use multiple tight ends. Washington, the transfer from Arkansas, has played a lot and is essentially used as a blocker. I think Flanagan presents more pass catching options as well, but he's a dynamic player. Be great to get him back. So hopefully we'll see that this week. Devontae Smith out again. Won't start as the nickel. Dallas Golden will start as the nickel, and Carson Hobbs backing him up. And I think they're expecting to see maybe a little more nickel opportunities this week with NC State compared to last week against Boise State. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Okay. Nothing else from the press conference from my chair. Do you guys have any other comments from today's presser with Coach Freeman?
Nah.
No,
Okay.
I think we covered things pretty comprehensively.
Okay. We'll take a look here at college football playoffs and how Indy's weekend and victory over Boise State moved us, I think, into a better position. Obviously, moved up to 16th in the polls. Polls don't decide things, but it's a good indication of how the team is being viewed nationally. Probably the bigger impacts this week were Miami's win and A&M's win. And those two teams have to continue to be elite. I like Miami a little more than A&M. Bram, what do you think?
Yeah, I did get a chance to watch that game. I do think Miami's the real deal. I mean, they've just got solid depth at every single position. They really don't have a hole when you think about it. And anytime you got a guy like Carson Beck back there, that's going to take you places. You're going to win a game or two that you normally wouldn't by having a guy like that. So, but I do agree with you. I think Miami's the better team than A&M right now. I thought it when we played both of those teams, and I expect that at the end of the season, Miami's going to be ranked higher than A&M.
Well, I think Miami's got a better defense than A&M, but more, I guess, on my mind is Miami's got a better path to 12-0 than A&M.
Yeah,
does,
they got
right?
the
and
ACC, right?
They both got both teams have great quarterbacks, and A&M's a little more explosive on offense, but I just don't expect Miami to lose. I think Georgia Tech in the ACC off to a great start. I don't know if they're for real or not. And other than that, I'm not sure who in the ACC can beat Miami. A&M, however, obviously, unlikely they're going to finish undefeated. And I just hope they stay in the top 10. Now, as you look at our future schedule and what our resume could look like, Navy and USC are really the only scenarios there for us to have wins over ranked teams. Coffee, as you look at USC Michigan this week, any thoughts on the importance of that game for Notre Dame?
And the whole stadium just fall down, or is that an option? But obviously we need to root for Southern Cal in as many games as possible. We need our opponent's strength of schedule to be as strong as possible, because last year when we had a great win to look at in A&M, now we have two good losses, and good wins always end up trumping good losses in my experience, I think. But the path to, and I can always tell when Notre Dame is drifting back into CFP relevancy because my Big Ten friends start mumbling about favoritism. But right now, what I look at as,
first off, hang on, Coffee. Why do you have Big Ten friends? Let's start with that.
I live in Chicago. What do you want from me? I mean,
there's plenty of domers in Chicago you can hang out with.
I know.
All right. Anyway.
So, but I think what I look at is who are the top four teams in the Big Ten and who are the top four teams in the SEC, because that is what, if anything, would push Notre Dame out of a playoff bracket. If Notre Dame runs the table and ends up 10-2, well, the ACC and Big 12 champions are going to get slots. So that's two. And then one for the group of five, that's three. If you have 8 coming out of the SEC and the Big 12, that only leaves one space left. Now,
right, that's perfect.
I want to see how Notre Dame compares. So I think Penn State losing, that was huge for Notre Dame's playoff, because with a crappy loss like that, I mean, assuming Penn State can run the table, which is, I don't think they can, but if you knock Penn State out, so then who are your Big Ten? You have Ohio State, you have Oregon, you have Indiana, and then who's the fourth? Is Illinois the fourth? Maybe they get beat along the way. I don't know who the fourth team is with Penn State out of the picture.
It could be the winner of Michigan USC.
Could have a path to it. Yeah.
I think I'm okay with 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC, or 8 between the two. To me, it comes down to, as you think about our chances, to me, it comes down to this. The ACC has to get just one, and the Big 12 has to get just one.
Yeah.
That's the key. So those are the games and the teams that we need to be looking at. Georgia Tech needs to lose.
Iowa State's loss certainly helps us, because they were trucking along in the Big 12. They got upended, and And the ACC, I know you've got like Virginia Tech drifting, you got or you got Georgia Tech drifting in, you got Virginia drifting in. I mean, I don't know how good any of those teams are. I think Georgia Tech is making a lot of hay over the fact that they beat Clemson. I mean, everybody's beating Clemson now. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Miami. And the key is going to be, I mean, we're going to have to look at the ACC schedules because everybody doesn't play everybody else. So if Georgia Tech like scampers in, not playing Miami or Florida State during the regular season, they could find their way almost by default in the ACC title game. When you get into a title game, anything can happen in one game. Yeah. So I'm really I'm really going to be rooting for Georgia when they play Georgia Tech at the end of the year. Most definitely.
For sure. No doubt about it. You definitely need those middling Big 12 and middling ACC teams to have multiple losses so that there's no question that the runner-up in those two conferences does not make the playoffs. That's our best path.
I wouldn't mind the Big Ten going and the SEC streak.
Well, sure, right, because they're out of it already, right? But
yeah, exactly. Have them win as many games as they possibly can.
I'm with you, right? Let the Big Ten and the SEC split up eight bids. I'm fine with that. Okay. So let's close it out today with a little conversation about this date in ND football history. I'm going to throw a couple games out there for you that happened on this date. This is October 6th. 2012 Shamrock Series game in Chicago. I know I was there. Coffee, you were probably there. Notre Dame takes down Miami 41-3. That was a huge
actually
moment.
At that game, believe it or not.
That was fun. I
don't believe it, Brammer, because if you were there, why weren't you and I there, tailgating together before the game? Maybe we were, and I don't remember that. But
I think we did know that we were both there. But yeah, I was tailgating before the game.
Well, you had to be careful who you're hanging out with there. So
true.
Yeah.
True.
So that game, that whole season, hugely important. Obviously, disappointing championship, result. But that whole ride in BK's third year, and that game in particular against Miami, really, really paved the way for the resurgence that happened, 2017 on, I think, right? Got us back in the game, so to speak. Coffee, I know you're not a big BK fan. I thought Brian Kelly was good, not great at Notre Dame. To be great at Notre Dame, you got to win a national championship. He didn't do that. I think he was good, not great. The second game that happened on this is another BK game I'm going to throw at you. 2018 road game at Virginia Tech. And I think, when you look at college football since 2018, all-time wins, the most successful programs, Notre Dame is fourth on that list, most wins since 2018. And I love that 2018 team for what they did. Again, disappointing playoff performance. But that game at Virginia Tech, that was a special game. You guys have any memories of that?
I'm still trying to figure out what the Enter Sandman thing is. So, why that's. I mean, obviously, it's the way Virginia Tech comes on the field. Okay, fine, but there's a lot of schools out there that have, interesting traditions and all that, and that one always kind of befuddled me, like why it's such a huge deal. But yeah, it is.
Yeah, well, that was a night game. That was a classic game. I mean, you talk about energy. That game had it for sure.
True.
I think that got a lot of ratings too, if I remember right. But that was a cool game, cool time, and that was a big win for Notre Dame. I mean, I think that was huge in propelling them for the rest of the season.
Well, I tell you, because those were the kinds of night games in a hostile environment that traditionally we hadn't won a lot of those over the previous 20 years, right? So play that stands out in my mind, Dexter Williams taking it 96 yards. Early in the third quarter, that was special. That was special. Okay, I thought that would be nice little walk down memory lane. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there for Mike Brammer, Mike Coffey. This is Mike Sullivan. We'll see you Thursday on Dome and Domer.